So many people think that personal growth only counts if they actually sit down for an hour and do a journal or a workbook or a course. And, while those things are really valuable and growth can also happen in your ordinary moments of life, it can happen while you're actually driving, walking, folding the washing, mowing the lawn, or getting ready for the day. And what do I mean by that? Well, personal growth does not need to actually live in a separate bucket called self development time. It can be woven into your life, like your daily life that you're already living. And the real shift is not finding more time, it's actually learning how to use the time that already exists with more intention. If you're actively seeking ways to build your mental toughness, navigate life transitions with grace, or simply find inspiration to keep moving forward, then you're in the right place. Welcome to the Art of Beautiful Thinking podcast.
Welcome to the Art of Beautiful Thinking. I am Kat and this is Yvette, and we are here today to talk about the amazing concept of habit stacking.
Yes, I like habit stacking. I
I
do
love
it all the time.
it. Well, I think it's something that's been around for a really long time, but one of the things I love about social media and the internet is how people create new terms. I find it quite
Mm,
fascinating. And some of these terms are just brilliant. They're just very concise. They explain it all. Habit stacking. So I went for a massage today because I think massage is a very important part of self-care. And I've got this beautiful massage therapist. His name is Marty Fry. I asked permission, actually. Well, he said it's not my concept, but we had this conversation today. He does breath work as well as massage. And he was saying that when he's training his students in breath work, a lot of them will say, "Oh, I don't have 15 minutes to set aside and do breath work for the day." Because breath work releases the muscles, the cognitive function of your brain sends hormonal signals all around your body,
mm,
whether to tighten up those muscles, whether to saturate your muscles with oxygen. So this is part of what we always talk about, that brain body connection, getting yourself into alignment, right? He was saying that habit stacking is the best hack that he can give people on how to be doing your daily activities, your normal stuff that you always do, and you just add one thing into that. You don't do it in a way that stresses you out.
yeah.
Yeah. You've got some examples of how you do it,
Yeah,
haven't
well, I habit stack all the time, and I mean, for me, I never kind of referred to it as that term habit stacking. It's just I would look at it when I just need to save time. I'm looking at ways to actually save more time. So, for instance, we're renovating our property. We're constantly always renovating our property,
you?
and I was actually doing the deck oiling the other day, and kind of went, well, okay, I'm going to put a podcast on
Yeah.
and listen to a uplifting podcast whilst I'm actually doing that. Or when I'm actually gardening, I may listen to an audio book. Again, it'll be a personal growth audio book or something like
Yeah.
that. Could be a metaphysical audio book, but anything in that growth space that I absolutely love, I'll listen to it whilst I'm either gardening or doing renovation work that doesn't require me to actually hear things.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
when I used to commute to work, because I now work for myself from home, but when I was working in the corporate world and having to commute, I would use my commute time also as a point of either listening to personal growth seminars or podcasts, or even with Mind Valley, they've got a lot of online
Yeah.
courses. So I would do that type of thing whilst I was commuting to work. So there's all these different times where we can do something, and it's the same with affirmations. People kind of go, "Oh, I've got to sit there and be quite,
Yeah.
thinking of the affirmation in and there." It's like you can
Yeah.
be
Yeah.
doing your affirmations whilst you're washing the dishes or putting on your makeup, doing your hair. Even again, same thing, driving to work or on whenever you're walking anywhere. You don't actually have to just go, "I've got to set time aside
Yeah.
to actually do my affirmations." It's really about integrating it into what you're already doing. And I
Yeah.
think that's probably what kind of pushes people away from personal development,
Oh, yeah.
because they kind of think that they've got to carve out more time, and
Yeah.
you don't. It's about integrating it into your existing life and how you already do life.
Yeah.
And one of the other things I do, when I'm getting ready to go to bed, I'll like lay there and do my Reiki or chakra energy cleanses and things like that. Sounds very
Yeah.
woo woo, but it actually
No.
helps to really it sets me up to have a really good night's sleep.
Yeah. Yeah.
And rather than just hopping in bed and going, okay, I'm just laying here and I'm just gonna, get
Yeah. Yeah.
comfortable and fidgety and things like that until I fall
Yeah.
asleep.
Yeah.
So it really, really works quite well. And I've been doing that for years. But again, as I said, I never referred to it as habit stacking. I just kind of went, how can I integrate this stuff into my life without needing to carve up more time? Because I've already got a busy schedule.
Well, this is true. And, I'm a big joy learner. So, one of the things I learned, I don't even know where I learned it, around something I was doing, teaching people something. It was people learn so much better with a bit of humor and a bit of joy.
Mm.
They really do. Like, I mean, we've all done trauma learning. You've all learned this. I can't do it. I can't do, right, we're going to set our intentions. It's going to be like this. No, I want it to flow. I want it to be maybe not effortless, but when I'm absorbing the messages and I'm getting something out of it, I want it to be something that enhances my life every day and makes me feel better about things. And all the little incremental good things that you do, they stack on top of one another until you're
Yeah.
feeling really great, right? That's how I want to learn. I don't want to, yeah, I don't want to. The era of shoulder pads and hardcore, we're going to do this, make it happen, is gone. It's
Yeah.
gone.
The
We don't want that.
forcing. Yeah,
Yes,
exactly.
we've had
Yeah.
enough of it. So, I think anything that is joyous, brings me joy, and teaches me at the same time and makes me feel good is worth investing in. So, I guess the habit stacking for me would be going to the gym, doing my breathing. My breath work is part of my lifting.
Hmm.
I think it's one of those things that you've just got to do when you lift if you want to do it really well. And when I lift, I tune into the muscles in my body that I'm using at the time, as well as my breath as I'm doing it. So it's a concerted effort. So I'm actually sitting in my whole body as I do it. There's room for thought in there, but it tends to be thought in the flow. And
Yeah.
then after I'm done, or even between sets, like if I've done deadlifts, I'll stop and stretch my hammies while I'm doing that. So I'm stretching, breathing, and working out all at the same time. And that's stacking your habits. It's something as simple as that. Whenever you're doing things mindfully, that gives you a good feeling. And then I walk out of that gym and I feel like $1,000,000,
Mm.
because I've done it and I feel great. And the other thing I think that it does for you is it gives you a space, a reflective space, and puts you in that place of flow. So you and I have talked backwards and forwards a lot about meditation. Now, some people can sit and do a meditation. Not me, but if I'm in the flow of an activity of whatever it is, then the thoughts will come into my mind and they will leave, and they will go, and I will have sudden breakthroughs, or things will dawn on me, or I'll see like a vision of something and I'll go, "Oh, yeah, okay. Yeah, I can really see that." Yeah, I
Yeah.
find that
So that, I
really
mean,
powerful.
that's the difference between active and passive meditation. So active meditation is you're in
Yeah,
activity, whether that is you're doing exercise, you're going
yeah.
for a walk, you're getting yourself into the flow. And active meditation is also a guided meditation. It can also be that.
Oh,
And
I
then
love
you've got
guided
your
meditation.
inactive or passive meditation, which is
Yes.
the literally sitting down and meditating, or laying down and meditating. It really, it doesn't really matter which one you do, it's just finding that thing, and I think it's beautiful that you have found it working for you, especially when you're exercising.
Yeah.
I used to find when I did aikido, I would actually do
Yeah.
I'd really get into an active meditative state when I was doing
Hatha,
aikido,
hatha.
and you
Absolutely.
just get in the flow of things. And the same sort
Mm,
of thing, you'd have, you're actually you're so in the moment,
yeah.
focusing on what you're doing in that moment that you're not necessarily thinking of anything else. You're
Yes.
actually being grounded and centered in that moment. And
Exactly.
then when you come out of that, that is why all of a sudden you're open, you've got clarity because you've got clear vision because you've been grounded and you're here centered. You haven't got the monkey mind or the stresses and the
Yeah.
anxiety of the day going do 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 do. You're actually totally focused on what you're doing,
Yeah.
and you're in that moment. And that is where the best breakthroughs happen, is
They
where you
do,
are
they
in
do,
the
yeah.
moment.
You're giving your brain and your body and your spirit, you're giving everything a rest, and you're giving that chance for that little quiet voice that lives in all of us to speak up above the noise. When I studied psychology at uni, I didn't finish the degree, but I really remember doing, in this particular subject we talked about the differences in the brains of Tibetan monks and monks that have been trained in years and years of meditation, as opposed to the standard Western brain. And there's certain parts of their brain that are massively more developed. And that is exactly what
Mm,
you're talking about, because they sit in that place of flow. It's so good for you. It relaxes your parasympathetic nervous
it
system.
does.
It takes you from the red zone into the green zone. And what we tend to do as a society is we focus entirely on work, on our
Mm,
duties, on our responsibilities, on what we're supposed to be doing. And if you do that from when you get out of uni or when you start your career for 10 years and you haven't stopped and taken a breath and looked after yourself and gone, What do I need? What do I want to do? We're seeing millennials that are in their early 30s and they're burnt out.
Oh, exactly. I remember, I used to assist a guy running leadership programs down in Melbourne, Mark
Yep.
II Consulting. So hi, Mark, if you're listening. And well, I remember we were running an event at one of the universities down in Melbourne, and
Mm,
there was, well, I don't know, there would have been about 50 university students in this room,
yeah.
and we were talking about exactly this, about being present, being in the
Yeah.
moment,
Yep.
um, appreciating the little things in life, because they, again, they were coming towards the end of their time at university, getting ready to step into the job world type of thing, and start really pursuing their careers.
Yep.
And it was like, have you actually had time to stop? And I
Yeah.
remember one of the students came up to me. It was a guy, and he came up to me and he goes, when you guys say about being in the moment, what is it that you actually mean? And I said, well, what do you do
Mm,
to basically center yourself or calm yourself? And he goes, oh, I'll go for a ride, or I'll go for a walk in the park, or things like that. And I said, okay, let's use that for an example. When you're walking in the park, are you still in your head thinking about
hmm.
the stuff that's going on at, like what you've got to do next and all that? He goes, yeah. He goes, that's why I usually go for a walk, is because I'm trying to calm that down. He goes, but it doesn't normally work very well. And I went, okay, well, do you ever stop to appreciate a tree that happens to be in the park, or appreciate birds that are singing, or seeing a couple, or
Yep.
whatever it may be? Do
Yep.
you do you stop to appreciate the beauty that's around you, or even notice that
Yeah.
beauty that is
Yep.
around you? And he goes, no.
No.
And I went, give that a go and see how different you feel.
Mm,
And
mm.
that's really the difference between about being in the moment. So you can still be actively doing things, like as I
Oh,
said, going for a walk, but
yeah,
your
yeah.
mind is still
Mm,
100 miles an hour over here, stressing about something you've got to do in the next hour, or the next day, or the next week, or you're
yep.
concerned about something that's happening, and that's where your mind is. So even though you're going for a nice, peaceful walk, not at peace.
No, of course.
So
Of
it's
course.
it's really about being in that moment, getting yourself grounded and appreciating the beauty around you. Now, one way of doing that, as I said, if you were to go for a walk and put on your headset and start listening to some personal growth stuff, that's also going to get you out of the negative mind, or the monkey mind, or the stresses of your day, because you're going to be focusing on what
Inspiring.
the
Yeah.
conversation is.
Yeah.
And you're going to have some aha moments that are likely to help you
Yep.
deal with the situation that you're
Yeah.
actually stressed over. So it's
Yep.
quite, and then when you take that away and you take that one learning and then you start integrating it, you start seeing a change in your life. And we always talk about that that 1 degree change will make a
One
massive,
tiny little bit.
you'll land in a totally different destination.
Mm.
So for me, bringing in and integrating personal growth into your life, as you said, the habit stacking, I think is fundamental to helping you improve the life that you currently have,
Yeah.
and to be able to deal and manage the daily stresses that you have, and then to also bring you in the moment.
And to have you in contact with yourself. And it's
Yes.
it's that complex interplay that you've just mentioned between being in contact with with your mind, but not being completely stuck in your mind, being in your spirit, but not completely stuck in your feelings, and still in your body, but not like, stressing over every little tiny ache and pain. It's just that nice flow space, that flow state. You've only got to achieve that a little bit. It doesn't have to be for hours on end.
No.
You've only got to achieve it here and there. And we're all different and we've all got different ways of achieving it. I play a cozy video game that I absolutely love because I'm a gamer. I'm pretty sure I'm ADHD. I'll be getting my diagnosis later this year, but I'm pretty sure that's the go. So for me, I mean, back in the day, if someone said to me, let's sit down and do some, I don't know, craft or knitting or whatever or something, I'm bored shitless.
Yeah.
And my brain is a hamster wheel and it's going all the time. Why I love cozy gaming is my brain is engaged. I'm planning as I'm doing it. I'm completely immersed in what I'm doing. I'm creating something pretty and nice. I'm not fighting. I'm just relaxing. I'm doing those things. And my hands are busy at the same
Yeah.
time. The only downside to that is that physically, it's not very engaging, obviously. It's like couch potato. So I work on a whole thing where I go, well, if I've achieved my fitness goals for the day, then that's my reward. That's
Hmm.
my non-food reward. So this is how I work. Other people, that sounds like a complete nightmare. My husband couldn't sit and play a video game
No.
if his life depended on it. It's just completely boring. He'd do it for 10 minutes and go, "Fuck this, I'm so bored."
Yeah, I'm the same. I kind of think it's wasting my time. I've got so many other things I could be doing.
Now he will sit in front of the trivia shows of an afternoon, like, Millionaire Hot Seat and whatever the other one is, like, I think they and he'll flick between the channels because he wanted to
Yeah.
answer all the questions. He's a trivia nerd. He'll do that in his record room, and as he's doing it, he'll be cleaning vinyl records. And that is his meditative state that he goes into. Now, when we first got together, we didn't know that he had autism. And when we got the diagnosis, the psychologist said, "Look, he goes into overwhelm a lot." And with autistic people, some autistic people go into overwhelm and they just explode. And he was getting like that. So what we needed to do was provide him with his own space that worked for him, and that was a record room full of this smelly, stinky, dirty old vinyl that he loves. That I look at and I go, "Ew," but he loves it. And he cleans his vinyl, he grades his vinyl, he looks online and he checks the prices of it, of his collection. And then he also deals and sells in it. And then he's also got his big TV with his trivia. And he's happy in there. That's it. That's like his paradise.
Well,
Perfect.
that goes back to that what helps to ground you. So
Exactly. He's
things
in
and that
flow.
helps to ground him. And it's for me, I get grounded from whether I'm exercising, whether I'm meditating. I've got
Yeah.
a number of different things, gardening that help to ground me.
You
And
did a lot of sport when you were younger, didn't
I
you? Like
did,
you were
yeah.
very
I was
sporty.
an athlete when I was
You were
younger.
naturally
So
in your body. You had
yeah,
that physical intelligence. Joe
yeah,
didn't really, and he hates exercise, similar to Jeff.
yeah,
I'm thinking a habit stacking technique, it might be pretty cunning for me to get him an exercise bike that's really comfortable that he can just sit on and pedal while he's watching these
yeah,
shows.
yeah. Absolutely. Then he can clean his records
Yeah.
and do the trivia stuff at the
Might
same
get him a little
time.
stable table and have it all there and just
Exactly.
keep him away.
Can do it all at once. Why not? So yeah, because when I think about the difference between being centered and calm and allowing our anxiety and stresses, though I can only go back when I was doing martial arts, it was really evident when I was doing Aikido, for instance,
Yeah.
when I was too in my head
Oh,
versus
yeah.
when I was
Yeah.
actually in flow, in the moment, and just allowing. And the thing with Aikido is you've got one person who is basically going to do the move, and the other person who is the recipient of the
Yes.
move, and you're
Yep.
practicing that all the time. And as the recipient, the person receiving it, you've got to actually really be in the moment, in flow,
Yes.
because you
Yep.
can injure yourself really easily if you're getting thrown and you don't land properly and
Absolutely.
stuff like that.
Yeah.
And that was always when I was in uke, they referred to it. It was whenever I was in that recipient role, I would always find I would know when I was too in my head versus when I was in the moment. Because when
Yep.
I was in the moment, it was exactly what you were saying before. It would just come really easily. It would flow. You was kind of like full of energy and you'd bounce
Yep.
back up and you were just there. And you could see the move happening before it actually even happened.
Yeah. Yeah.
As
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
when I wasn't, the move had happened and I'd be going, oh, and you'd land really badly and it was just, and you'd
Yeah. Your
hurt
body's
yourself.
tense and your muscles are tense
Yeah,
and yeah, you
exactly. And
do.
you'd hurt yourself. And if you take that off the mat and you put that into everyday life, that's exactly what it's like when we are not grounded and centered and not
Exactly.
doing the work on ourselves to help to, move forward in life. And that's going to help not just improve our lives, but improve the relationship we have with ourselves
Yep.
versus being stuck in that anxiety mindset and that stress mindset and that woe is me mindset, and getting really caught up in the stresses all day. But not, and you don't even have to be in that mindset. It could also be the mindset of I just got to get out there and do. And that's not you
Yeah.
being centered. And that
Yeah.
goes back to what you were saying earlier on about in today's society, we are so performative based. You get
Mm.
out there and perform and get out
Yeah.
there and achieve success in your
Look
work,
the best and
climb the
do the
corporate
best.
ladder or build a
Oh,
really successful $1 million
yeah.
business. And if you're not doing that, you're a loser,
Yeah.
and that's such the wrong message to
It is the
give,
wrong message. Yeah.
because you are a unique individual.
Mm.
And when you truly understand who you are, and you'll do that through that clarity work, through being centered, through
Yeah.
being grounded, through integrating personal growth into your life, you will then start to go, this is what I want to do in life.
Yeah.
And when you do that and you're coming from a place of values and what's important to you, then all of a sudden you start to thrive.
Yeah, against the odds, against everyone saying, "Oh, maybe you shouldn't do it." I don't care. I know this is what I'm doing, and once you're doing something that, and when we throw the word alignment around, basically what that means is you've worked out who you are, what works for you, and you've got a deep purpose and a sense of this is what I want. Or maybe you don't have a deep purpose and a sense of what you want. You go, this is what I don't want,
Yeah.
and so to get what I do want, I'm going to do this. And that's going to make my life happy. It's going to make me make the things that are important to me, family time, being free, whatever it is, that's going to allow me to do this. Interestingly, when you're talking about the flow state and, your body being kind of really in that sort of energetic movement where you're flexible and you can adapt and let things in that you need to hear and move with, that sort of that made me think of a lot of addiction stuff I've done in the addiction space when I've worked with people who are really struggling with terrible addictions. And every single one of those people, I've seen that TED talk that says the opposite of addiction is connection. And everyone thinks that means connection. And they say connection to community is important.
Ah,
The number one most important connection is this connection.
yes, the connection with
So
self. Mm.
exactly. And when you become very connected to yourself, like, I mean, my husband and I have really enjoyed lots of good red wine over the years, probably too much. And it's funny because both of us have been doing a lot of personal growth work. I did the workbook, and we've been really sort of leaning into a lot more of a healthy lifestyle and just doing it for the purpose of loving ourselves and listening to ourselves. We hardly drink anymore. We
Mm.
hardly drink. And when we do have a drink, we don't need the alcohol to lift us into the flow state, because that's what a lot of people use addictive substances for, is to lift you into the flow state that you're not able to achieve because you're not in alignment. And when you do a flow state when you're in alignment, it's it's kind of like the ultimate refreshing of everything. It makes you feel really, really good afterwards, and it makes you feel good during, and it has that stacking effect that it's healthy
Yeah.
and it's good for you over time. When you go for the flow state artificially by using a substance, it numbs you. That's
Yeah.
what it actually does. It's not putting you in a flow state. It's just
No.
numbing all the messages that are saying we're not in flow.
Yep.
And then you pay the price for that the next day or however long it takes. Like, I personally find I think I had two big fat glasses of red wine last night. I feel okay today, but there's been times when I've had that and I've paid for it for days
Yeah.
because
Well,
it
I
just
I
felt
think
like
it's
it.
it's funny when you talk about that because that's exactly with myself. I've taken my metaphysical growth, like the work that I do in that space. I've really embraced it over the last
Yeah.
couple of years, and through that, and really integrating that into my life, and on top of the personal growth stuff. Yeah, I don't touch alcohol that often
Mm,
these
mm.
days,
Yep.
and when I was working in my last corporate job, because it was in the account management field, there's a lot of taking clients out for drinks or team building. So
Yeah.
there was a lot of alcohol involved,
Like a cult. Mm.
and it was a real culture around alcohol. And then you'd go, oh, I've had a bit of a stressful day. I'm going to have a glass of wine, and you start using it as a form of self medication,
Yeah.
and then it becomes a habit and it just creeps in with alcohol as well, that even though it numbs you in that moment, when you're coming through the next day when you're recovering from it, because it's
Yeah.
actually a poison in the body,
Yeah.
it actually triggers depression and anxiety in the body. So the stuff that you were already feeling a little bit
Yes.
depressed and anxious about is actually going to make it worse.
That's the cycle of
Because
alcoholism.
yeah,
That is the cycle of alcoholism. You get
exactly.
to 5 o'clock, you can't stand the monkey mind, you're stressing, "Oh, I'll just have a couple of drinks." Suddenly, and this is why I'm only good at pool once I've had a few drinks, talking about that as
Mm.
well. That's actually the scientific theory behind it. Ever notice no one can play pool? They have 1 or 2 drinks and they're a fucking champion, but then you
I'm
have
the opposite. I play pool really well when I'm sober
there
and
you
bad when I'm
go.
drunk.
And then you have 3 or 4 drinks and you're back to being completely shit again. So, yeah, that's an aside. But, yeah, that's absolutely it. The cycle of alcoholism, I used to go through that a lot with lots of offenders that were really caught up in, and not even offenders, other people just really caught up in the alcoholic cycle, which is exactly what you're saying. It's a powerful, potent neurotoxin. You get to 5 o'clock, "Oh, it's 5 o'clock," because it's a
Yeah.
habit as well. So your brain's going, "Oh, I'm hanging out for that."
Well, of
And,
course, it's addictive as well,
it is
you know?
addictive. Yeah, your little
Yeah.
receptors in your mind are going, "Yeah, let's get this." And you know that when you get to that time, you can switch all the monkey mind off and it gives you that temporary relief. But then the next day, like you said, you wake up feeling like utter trash. And
Mm.
then you go through the day jittery, irritated, snappy, feeling even worse, and then you get to 5 o'clock and it's relief time again. So yeah, that's the cycle of alcoholism. And when I broke that down for people who would come in and they're so ashamed, going, "Oh my god, I've turned to alcohol." Not because they're addicts, because they have tough things going on in their life. They're really struggling. They feel like they can't get a break and they're mentally so exhausted. And a lot of these people are highly functioning in
Yeah.
life. They've just they cannot get rid of, they call it the demon drink, because it's that temporary
That's a
it's
temporary
temporarily
fix.
temporary
Yeah.
fix that becomes a cycle that you've got to break, and
Yeah.
then it becomes overwhelming. So
Yeah.
yeah, getting in the flow, habit stacking to make yourself feel, from the perspective, the whole goal I would suggest of habit stacking is to make yourself feel good. And if you work from that
Yeah.
place, you'll always, that'll be something, that's how you reinforce habits, because you feel good when you do them.
Exactly. And when when you start feeling good within yourself and start feeling confident, then you don't need those vices like alcohol or,
No,
chocolate or things like that. You find that you go, "Oh, I don't need that anymore." And it's really a natural progression where you move away
it
from
is a
it.
natural
Yeah.
progression. It
You just
is
kind of go,
exactly that.
I just don't feel the need to have that. And that's
Yeah.
because you're starting to build a really good relationship with yourself through
Yes.
the habit stacking, through integrating personal
Yeah.
growth into your life, through really starting to build that inner trust,
Yes.
and building that confidence muscle, the self trust muscle, all of
Yeah.
those types of things start to build when you start doing this.
Yeah.
And then that starts to improve your life in ways that you wouldn't realize. And if you were to say to do that for 12 months, I'm just going to
Yeah.
put it out there, you do it for 12 months. And at the end of 12 months, you would look back and you go, when did that start? When
Wow.
did I stop drinking alcohol? When did I
Wow.
stop eating all the sugar? Because it just happens naturally. You just go, I don't feel like that anymore.
It's
And
not a
it's
function of discipline.
no, it
Not a
just
function of
happens.
discipline. And we don't want more functions of discipline. That's
No.
the problem, because we're already disciplining ourselves to get out of bed and go to work and deal with all the shit that we deal with every day and exist in a chaotic world where we've got complete fucktards that are in charge of the nuclear weapons, like it's, and the oil supply. So we don't want to be in a space where we're having to add more and more and more layers of discipline, because that's not going to help anyone. So when we say personal growth, I think it's an all-encompassing and important term, but it does conjure up those ideas of, I've got to get up at 5 a.m. and juice my juice, and then I've got to take myself for a 10K run, and this is all my personal growth. I've got to have a really strict routine.
Yeah.
Some of us cringe away at the thought of that. And I
Yeah.
think we're smart enough now to know that it has to be something that completely integrates into your lifestyle. And as you've said on many occasions, inspires you. Mm.
Yeah.
I want inspiration. I don't want discipline anymore. I don't want it. I want inspiration, and I want
Well,
my discipline to flow. I want my routine to flow
exactly.
naturally.
And that's the thing, because when you are inspired from within, because that's where inspiration comes from, it's
Yeah.
inspired from
Yeah.
within, you then do start to go, well, I don't feel like that anymore. I don't want that anymore. And I
Mm.
don't need that in my life anymore. And those people over there, I think I can let them go.
Yeah.
And then you also start perhaps even looking at your job and going, hey, I do deserve a better
Better
role. I
job.
do believe in
Yeah.
myself. And then you'll start doing things that are more for you rather than against you. That's really, I think, the importance of habit stacking and the importance of bringing in personal growth. And I think also a lot of people look at personal growth from the self help days,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
which is
Yeah.
a very different things. And a
Absolutely.
lot of the time, um, one of the things I find with self help, in particular, or even personal development to a point, is
Yeah.
when people say you're broken, there's something wrong with you. And the thing about it is, you're not broken. There's nothing wrong with you. You've just got some bad habits that you need to let go of. And also just some self realization of what
Yeah.
it is that you want in your life. What are the things that are important to you? And
Yeah.
you get that through understanding you better, and the best way to understand you better is actually through the integration of personal growth in your life.
And
Um,
encouragement and support.
yeah,
But, I mean, I think we used to talk about self help and say, "Oh, you've got all these things wrong with you." That used to be a fantastic marketing tool.
yeah,
People
and
used
that's
to
all it was,
use.
a marketing
Yeah,
tool. Tell
it
you
was
that
a
there was
marketing
something
tool.
wrong with you, so you would then
Uh huh.
purchase the thing.
It's
And
just a form of
yeah,
negging. It's a form of negging. You need
yeah,
these products because you're fucked. It's a load of
correct.
rubbish. It's a load of rubbish. Actually, you are exactly the same person. The people that I've seen make the most hugest changes, and I've seen them. I've seen people go from being technically excellent at what they do to suddenly rising through the ranks. They're the ones that have gone back to themselves and gone, okay, I'm really going to take stock. yeah, all right, actually, no, I'm going to listen to the positive voices that are going to tell me I am enough. I have got loads of self worth. I am actually very skilled. I don't need to listen to all the negative people. Maybe I am in the wrong environment and maybe I would do better. Now I know what I want. I'm going to go and find that instead,
Yeah.
and then I'm going to thrive. You don't plant um, a rose bush in the desert. It
No.
just doesn't work.
Well, you can, but you've got to make sure that you give it everything it needs to thrive.
Yeah.
So,
You think it'll enjoy it though? I think it'll
it
be
depends on whether
struggle.
you put it near an oasis. So it really
That's
comes back
true.
to you've got to give it the environment to in order to thrive.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
it's the same with us. We need to be in the right environment to thrive. And that also
exactly,
goes for your internal environment. What's your
exactly.
internal environment like?
Yep, yep,
How do you talk to yourself? Do you believe in yourself? Do you absolutely trust yourself that you can get yourself out of any situation that you've actually put yourself in, or that you can actually, do better in your life for whatever that means for you? Do you believe in yourself, or do you have a
mm,
lot of self doubt? A lot of self worth issues and things like that. And I mean, for you and I, we really talk from a lived experience there because we were raised in domestic violence. We
yep,
know what it's like to
yep,
not believe in yourself, to have a shit ton of self doubt, to feel like you're
absolutely.
worthless because you've been told most of your life, well, you're not worth love.
You're the problem.
You're
You're
the
the reason why
problem.
we
Yep.
drink and argue.
Yep.
Yep,
And you're stupid and you're this and you're that. And to
mm,
be able to come out of that and rebuild yourself
yep,
and let that go and realize that that is actually not who you are.
no,
That was someone else's stuff that they were
yep,
putting on
yep,
you. That takes a lot of growth and
yeah,
internal, um, and I'm not going to say internal work, but internal reflection of
yeah,
knowing what is really true to you and living your life from your truth. And so I like to say, whatever makes your heart sing is the
yeah,
stuff
yeah,
that you should actually pursue in life.
yep, yep,
Because when your heart sings about something that you're doing, that means you're in joy. You mentioned that before about doing things from a place of joy, and when you're doing the habit stacking, doing things that you enjoy doing,
yep,
you're actually going to integrate it even more into yourself because it's
yes,
something that you love doing and it inspires you, and then it makes your heart sing. So then you
yeah,
start looking for other ways in your life
yep,
to actually make your heart sing.
yeah,
What does that look
absolutely.
like?
And it's an endless, like you've said before, when your heart is singing and you are attached to that wellspring of joy, it is completely bottomless. When you're trying to do things from a place of discipline and self-bullying and struggle, it's a really limited resource. You've only got so much in the tank. This tank, the joyous wellspring of inspiration, that is a limitless. That tank is as big as the ocean.
Oh,
That's it. Never runs out, never runs
it's
dry.
infinite. It's
It's like
infinite. It's just,
it's like a
yeah.
self-replenishing engine. The more you do it, the better you feel. It's great. It's awesome. And the key to doing that is to start doing tiny little things and figuring out tiny little changes, little ones that make you feel good. So sit on the sofa, get your little I had a salt lamp that I used to have. It was like carved in a half moon, sort of a half moon
Oh,
shape,
yeah.
and it was flat on the bottom and round on the top. And inside, I would put like a little a heating lamp bulb, and you'd leave that on. And of a night time, when I was stressed, when I was running my own business, I would sit on my sofa. I'd be watching the TV. I'd wrap myself in a really nice blanket that felt good. Particularly, I like a nice cold room, and I like my blanket to be the thing that warms me up. And then I'd put my bare feet on my salt lamp and rub my feet backwards and forwards. I think I'm definitely neurodivergent. But anyway, and that would really unbelievably relax me. And I used to get a really tight ligament on the bottom of my foot. And so
Oh, yeah.
I'd be playing my cozy computer game, rubbing my feet on my salt lamp and putting my blanket around me. And I would do that as a reward, and that would de-stress me. And that would just calm me down. Back those habits. Do the little things. It might sound trite, and people might sneer. People have sneered, and well, that's not changing your life greatly, is it? Yes, it is.
Well, it's funny because I remember when I first it's actually not funny. When I first got involved in personal growth work, when it was, introduced to me the very first time, and in large doses it was introduced to me. And I was kind of going, "Oh, wow, this is amazing and I love it." And I remember coming home and saying to Jeff, "Oh," and it was the first event that I'd ever been to, and came home and I was hyped and I was like, "This is
Yeah.
fantastic." And
Yep.
Jeff's going, "Oh, it sounds really like they're trying to get you to buy something." And I went,
Happy
"No, no, no, no,
chappy.
no. It's got nothing to do with that. I'm just talking about the mindset work that they're talking about." I
Yep.
said, "I think that's fantastic." And I said, and then I looked at him and I said, "Regardless of whether you actually believe that this works or not, it actually makes me happy And
Yeah.
because it makes me happy, I'm gonna keep doing it because I enjoy doing it. So I'm just gonna keep doing it. And it's interesting that I had that mindset. I just kind of went, it
I'm
brings
doing
me
it.
joy.
Yep.
So because that was at the time where I was in the recovery phase of the cancer.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
for me, I was looking for things in life
Yep,
that were
yep.
gonna bring me joy. I was also looking at life very differently and realizing
Rebuilding.
of the stuff that didn't bring me joy.
Yeah.
And so when I was introduced to it, I was just going, "Oh my god, this is amazing." And I just grabbed onto it and ran with it. And I wasn't trying to push it onto Jeff or push it onto anybody else. It was
Yeah.
like, this really works for me. And so
Mm.
I'm not going to stop doing it. And then
Mhm.
at times over the years where I did step back from doing it, because it happens, life gets in the
Yeah, of
way,
course it does.
I
Yep.
would actually start to find that my old monkey mind habits would start coming back, and I'd start to feel a bit low in life because I was
Yeah.
going, I just don't feel inspired.
Yeah.
I felt a bit lost within myself. And
Mm.
until I went, you know what, I'm going to integrate this back into my life again, and
Yep.
then integrate, as I said, more of my metaphysical stuff as well. It's a habit that I have created now longer than a few years, but I love it, and I know what it looks like not to do it
Yeah, yeah.
versus what it looks like to do it, and the results that I get when I am actively in that space of being inspired, in that space of my heart being in joy, in
Yeah.
that space of really liking who I am as a
Yep.
human being
Yep.
and what I have to offer, my life looks very different to
Absolutely.
what it looks
Yeah.
like when I'm in the monkey mind stress mode trying to force things to happen.
Mm.
And it's really, you said it before, it's really not something that you need to do to calm life down. It's about integrating a new habit into your life, into stuff that you're already doing
Mm.
to rebuild that relationship with yourself.
Give yourself a little shift. Give yourself
Yeah.
give yourself a sense of a life well lived. I mean, you can't beat that really because people say money doesn't buy happiness. I understand the sentiment behind that, certainly. You know, you can be, if you are totally detached from yourself and unaligned. I'm thinking of a lot of the guys in the manosphere because I look at a lot of those guys and they are very unaligned. Like they're very, very performative and they're going, I've seen one guy going, oh, sitting there smoking cigars, going, yeah, I've got a Mercedes and I've got all this money and I've got all these women that want me and blah, blah, blah. But he's so unaligned. Like it's just so surface level and so like if
Well,
you
it's about impressing others.
about impressing others. I mean,
Yeah.
if you sat down with that guy and wanted to actually have a genuine connected conversation about the things that bring him genuine joy and happiness that are not possessions, that are not women that he dominates, what would he have left? Those kinds of people, I think, yeah, they've only got a limited sort of. At some point, I've seen a lot of those kind of people. They just sort of have this massive meltdown and have a
Well, it's
big
because they're wearing a mask, aren't they? They
mental
are
crash out.
performing
Yeah,
the people rather than going, this is what's really,
yeah,
and they're looking, it goes back to what we were saying earlier on. They're looking externally and saying, this is what success looks like.
yeah,
So I've got
yeah.
to be that person. And then I've got to
Mm,
tell other people that unless they do this, they're not successful. Basically, really talk to people from that point of view of you're a failure or you're broken if you're not doing
yeah,
this.
and a
And
domination and
yeah, and
domination.
so you're feeding on the internal fear of people and their internal insecurities. And I
Mm,
mean, yes, apparently they now and again have some personal growth stuff, and that's what I dislike is they cover it with personal growth and say this is personal growth. I'm fucking sorry, it is not personal growth. Don't pull
it's
down other
twisting the
people. Don't
message.
belittle other people and call it personal growth just so
Mm-mm,
you can earn a few millions. It's a
mm.
charlatan, that's what I call that. So it really is that them just wearing a mask. And will they be like that all of their life? Possibility, until they decide to actually do some internal work and do the work that they say, the personal growth work you actually need to do, actually implement it, do it, and then
So
start
funny.
the change that they get in their life.
It'd be really interesting, if I ever had the chance, I'd like to chuck a bunch of them in a room to quietly sit and just with their own thoughts for a couple of hours and see what would
Ah,
happen. Can you imagine? Holy shit. It'd be like everyone they
yeah.
just lose their
And don't
mind.
turn on the mobile phone. Don't look
No,
at
no
look at
distractions.
no
All you
socials. Just you and your own mind
you
in a
guys
room.
have to sit in a room with your own mind calmly for the next 3 hours.
Yeah.
They wouldn't
See
even
how you
last
go.
15 minutes. They would not
Yeah.
last 15
And not
minutes.
with your little groupies around you either.
No,
Just you
no.
and that's it.
No, there's like it'd be a really interesting experiment to put say maybe get 6 of them and put them in a room, and they've all just got to sit there, and they're all wearing the same basic clothes, and the
They'd
room is
interact
calm.
with each other. They'd interact with each other and feed off of each other. You'd
But
want
they're
them
not
in
allowed to
separate
talk to each other.
rooms.
That'd be the rule. You're not allowed to talk. You've just got to all sit in each other's energy and dwell within your own mind.
Oh,
And the
interesting.
minute that you talk, you're disqualified.
You could turn it into an experiment. That'd be
You have to turn it into a competition.
yeah.
You have to, because they wouldn't do it otherwise. Let's see who's got the strongest alpha male mind in the manosphere.
Oh
They all
gosh.
fail. They'd all fail. It'd
Yeah.
be so funny. Anyway, getting off track.
Hilarious.
But so yeah, the point being that it's great, and one of the things is that once you start getting aligned and you start doing the things that you find joyous, you start finding that your life improves. You stack those habits and you just keep stacking them, and then you discover new things that work for you, and you keep stacking that, and you just become like a master at Jenga.
Yes,
You just gotta make
you
sure that you
do.
don't
You do.
pull
And
pieces out.
the beautiful thing is, even if one of the little Jenga things come out, it doesn't actually fall because you've stacked it so well.
Stacked it
It's really
well.
quite cool.
Exactly. Or maybe it's Lego. I don't know. But anyway,
Yeah, building with each other.
yeah, exactly. Whichever way, but you've stacked it in a way that is strong. You build and the strong foundation is you.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
Totally.
no one
You
can
are
touch
your
that.
foundation. Yeah.
No one can touch that. That's the other beautiful thing. Like, you can have high flying jobs. You can lose them in the blink of an eye. You don't know what's going to happen next. You can get sick. Touch wood. Hope you don't. You can lose your baby that you were 9 months pregnant with, like I was, that I was planning an entire life with.
Mm.
Gone in the blink of an eye. Anything can happen. You just don't know in this world. It's not about what happens to you. It's about giving yourself a strong foundation. That is your one insurance policy in this world, is knowing who you are, being connected to who you are, because it's not the tree that gives the bird confidence, it's her wings.
Yes. Yes. And I mean, and that's the interesting thing when you look at the birds as well. When you talk about the wings, a bird doesn't sit there when it wakes up in the morning going, "Where am I going to find food today?" It just knows
No,
it's going to find food,
yeah.
and it
It
goes and
doesn't sit there
searches
on
for
its
food
phone
and
going,
finds it.
should I find food? Should I go for high protein, or should I go for high fiber? It doesn't do anything.
Exactly. Or should I go annoy that human over there and demand some biscuits like the magpies do?
Exactly. And that's the thing. And I think, and the more we get into the social media age, the more connected we are via these things, the more we need to learn to come back to ourselves and stand strong. Because that is, there's so much, there's digital dementia now. I
Mm.
think it's 1 in every 5 children who are on social media will develop some sort of mental health problem from that. And again, it's because the foundation isn't strong enough. And at that age, a lot of kids aren't expected to be developed to the point where they can. This is why it's so important to get everybody grounded back into themselves, so that you
Mm.
can look at the stuff on here and go, no, I don't agree.
Yeah,
I'm
and
not
not be
absorbing that.
influenced by it.
Yeah,
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 totally right. I was reading, not reading. I was listening to a podcast the other day, and they were talking about the alpha generation and sort of saying how they are now looking more for community and
yeah.
away from, because they feel that technology, like they're still using
Separates us.
technology to build community,
Yep.
but they're looking, trying to get away from that being separate from everyone.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
let's bring it together. And that's really, I think, when you do personal growth work, that's what you're actually doing, is you're actually learning to be whole within yourself and
yeah,
building a community within yourself, that
yep,
you realize when you start working on yourself that way, that you aren't separate from anybody else. You
yeah,
are one whole,
yep.
and you'll start to appreciate and understand where people are coming from. So their behaviors don't really impact you too much. It's like water off a duck's back.
Yep.
And like when you were talking about when life throws things at you, it's the same sort of thing. You kind of go, you've got it's like you've got the pillars have been knocked into the ground, and you're not going to move. You're not going to shake.
No, 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 no.
You're so grounded that
Yep.
it doesn't shake you. And that's where you want to be in life, is to, again, it reminds me of Aikido. It's like when someone's
Mm,
coming at you with an attack, you step sideways and you use their own energy to actually throw them out of the way, or
exactly.
to
Let them follow
them up,
through.
or
Yep.
whatever the case may be. And it doesn't impact you at all. You've just kind of
No,
gone, I'm
you
just
haven't
taking a
expended
step
any energy.
sideways, and
You've
that's it.
reacted to protect yourself using the
Yeah,
skills that you have to minimize harm. And
Yeah, exactly.
that's all you can
And
do.
when you do personal growth work and you start to integrate and you do the habit stacking and you start getting inspired within yourself
Mm,
and you start building that self-confidence again and that self-trust again, that's what happens. When life throws stuff at you, you just
yeah.
take a step sideways and goes, okay, interesting, and you keep
Yep.
going. The
React
other thing
accordingly.
too is life can throw some really good things at you too. So even
Yeah.
though in an instance anything can happen to you, but
Yep.
it's anything good or bad can happen to you in an instant.
Exactly.
And I
Exactly.
also find that when you do start focusing on the good in you, within you, that's what you also start to see in your life and start to attract in your life and start to
Absolutely.
build more of in
Yeah,
your life
yeah, yeah.
as well, because
Yeah,
that's your
because you
focus.
automatically your energy shifts. We talk
Yeah,
about this. I mean, we're talking about a lot of practical things, but we also dabble into the neuroscience and obviously the way that things show up. Your energy will shift, your level vibrates, you go up and you change who you hang around. It's so true. I mean, I think if we at some point in science, we're going to be able to see exactly what energy signatures and things are. People talk about auras now. I reckon
yeah.
science will catch up eventually.
Oh, they
We'll
have
be able to
already.
see.
They already have caught up with all of that stuff. It's just not out in the,
Oh, really?
yeah, it's
Have a pair
there's
of
so much
glasses on
work
and you can
going
see
on
exactly
in
what's
that
going on.
field.
Yeah.
It's phenomenal the amount of stuff that they're uncovering, but it's just not out in the general public. That's all.
It's incredible because I know in my like probation parole work and my casework in different environments in community, people come in and they come in with a heavy energy. You can feel it. They're depressed, they're miserable, they're so heavy. Everything is weighing them down. Their foundation is just in pieces. Their life is chaotic. It's a mess. And part of what you're talking about in your community, in a community, is sometimes people don't have the skills or the understanding to lift themselves and they don't know where the hell to start and they're overwhelmed. So, being a person who has the capacity to feel that energy and then offer them ways to lift that energy up and then they walk out of the room and you can see that the spring is back in their step and you've given them an alternate way to think of things and look at things from a different perspective and they'll go out and they'll make one little change and then they'll come back and tell you the next week and you'll go, holy shit, that's great.
Yeah,
Amazing. And that's how we improve not just ourselves, because we also grow when we reflect on that work, but we also improve our community and ultimately our world. That's what we do. That's how you lift people up. And that is the reason, I guess, why we're here. And it's the good use of technology. That's why you want to, technology is just a tool. It can be used for good or
yeah,
evil.
yeah.
And I think anything that is lifting and helping your community and helping the people around you live better lives, that is a good thing. And if you're not doing that, please don't come at me with personal growth. But
So
anyway,
I'm going to let people know the Authentic Life Blueprint.
yes.
That is our workbook. It's probably more like a journal, really, than
It's
a
a
workbook.
journey. It should be called the Authentic Life Journey. I don't
Yeah,
reckon.
yeah.
Correct.
It's a pretty amazing book that has some
Yep.
great modules in there to help you reconnect with yourself, understand yourself better.
Yep.
It has some tools in there to to integrate into your daily life,
Yep.
and you can pick which one work for you, which one don't. But I recommend that you try them all and then decide which ones you want to utilize.
Yeah. Yep.
And each module builds upon the previous one. You have a pre-assessment and a post-assessment, so you can actually see the growth that you've done over
Yeah.
that period of time. And it's up to you with self-paced. It's up to you on
Yeah.
how fast you want to go through it or how slowly you want to go through it. And you can always come back and redo things as well and see how different you come back with the different answers based on
Yep.
what you've done previously.
Yep.
So it's a very powerful book that I have pulled together based on all of my experience within the personal growth world
Yep.
and what I have found works really, really well, especially for people starting out. It's
Yep.
a really good stepping stone. And even if you've done some work in the personal growth space, it helps you go a bit deeper as
Yeah,
well.
it really does. It
Yeah.
really does. I've done a fair bit of work before I got to that, and I was like very skeptical and not particularly interested, and was very surprised at how well it helped me. And I'm not that person that would blow smoke up anyone's ass.
So please feel free to have a look at the workbook. The link is actually below, and it'll take you to our website. It's 50 Australian dollars,
Right.
and you'll get a whole ton of information out of it, a whole heap of inspiration, and a really, really good understanding of yourself. And if you
Absolutely.
want to go deeper with it, we do actually have the Authentic Life Blueprint coaching program where we actually go one on one through the workbook together. And then we come back and do a coaching session around the work that you've done, any questions that you may have, and to be able to go deeper into finding those answers that you're
Yeah.
looking for yourself.
Yep.
So again, links are all below. And I would just like to put out a call of action to people as well from this particular session. If you could choose one part of your day that already happens, okay,
Mm.
so for instance, driving to work or mowing the lawn, ask yourself, how can I use this moment to support my growth or to support my clarity or connection with myself?
Will bring you some joy. What one little
Yeah,
joy adds? What one little habit can you stack in during that time that will bring you some sort of joy?
correct.
Yeah.
And see if you can integrate that into your life over the
Mm.
next month and see
Mm.
what a difference it makes.
Yeah, just note that down. How do I feel now?
Yeah.
Amazing. Amazing. Yep. Brilliant.
So we would love to hear from you. So if you've got any feedback, please comment below. That's the only way we know that people are actually starting to get something out of our sessions.
Mm.
And we are really appreciative of our audience for those people who
Yeah.
have been showing up and listening to us and providing us with feedback. Thank you so much because
Mm.
it means the world to us that
Mhm.
that we are being heard.
Absolutely.
So thank you. We appreciate your support. And remember to think beautifully and live brilliantly. And we will see you next time. Ciao.
Bye.
We'd like to say a huge thank you to our incredible audience for your continued support. Our mission is to ignite your spark, empowering you to be a beacon of light for others. We'd love to hear from you. So if you've got any questions that you would like answered in future episodes or just want to share some insights, connect with us on our Facebook community page. If you're looking for additional resources, go to our website. You'll find the link below. And remember, the absolute best way to help us grow is to share this episode with your friends and family and to subscribe to the Art of Beautiful Thinking podcast. So until next time, think beautifully and live brilliantly.